LibriVox.org. Recording by Avai in February 2017. Secresy, or The Ruin on the Rock, by Eliza Fenwick. Volume 3, Letter 35. From Caroline Ashburn to George Valmont. Sir, by the messenger of mine who, on his search for my lost friend, came to your gates a few days since, you were informed that it was through my means Sibella escaped from your castle, and, however stern may be the anger you entertain against me, be assured, sir, it cannot exceed the vehemence of that self-reproach and sorrow which now assail me for having been the contriver of so unjustifiable an undertaking. I send you, sir, a packet containing all the letters I have received from Sibella, and also the letters that have passed between Mr. Murden and myself. I lay them before you, with the confidence that you will afford them a patient and temperate perusal, for I think they will serve to convince you, as they have already convinced me, by the unfortunate event to which they have led, that, however plausible and even necessary in appearance, yet artifice and secrecy are dangerous, vicious tools. Your secrets were the preparatory step to the errors of Clement and Sibella. Had Sibella never departed from strict truth and sincerity, she had never formed her rash engagement with Clement. Had Murden never, with his dangerous refinements of fancy, longed secretly to view this rare child of seclusion, he had not bettered his life and happiness for a sigh. And lastly, had I not given way to the fatal mistake that secrecy could repair the inability of reason, I had, instead of availing myself of the ruin on the rock, ere now perhaps released Sibella by convincing you, and we had all been comparatively happy. Murden's unfinished letter from the village of Hipsley will show you his deplorable situation, and all that we know concerning the loss of our Sibella. I have 6 agents employed to discover her, but they wander blindly, for I have neither trace nor supposition to guide them. What can I do, sir? If you have any advice to offer, I hope you will not withhold it, from animosity to me. Excessively do I love the friend I have helped to sacrifice, yet I can readily and sincerely forgive you the errors of your conduct towards her. Oh, then, sir, pardon mine, and in pity to the anxiety of my heart, aid me with your advice and assistance. I do not even hate Mr. Montgomery, though I do despise him altogether. You suspected him of taking Sibella from the castle. I suspected him of stealing her from Mr. Murden. He was otherwise employed. I arrived in town with my poor patient under my protection yesterday evening, and resigned Mr. Murden to the care of his uncle, Sir Thomas Barlow. When I drove up to my mother's door, I found it more than usually crowded with carriages and servants, hung upon the pillars, and when several of my mother's footmen stepped from among the crowd, I perceived there were new liveries adorned in the highest style of elegant expense. Though it was impossible not to notice the uncommon glare of splendour that saluted my eyes, yet our changes have always been so various and profuse, I never thought of inquiring into the cause of the present. Unfitted by my dress, but still more by weariness of limbs and depression of mind, to encounter company, I retired to my chamber and to bed. This morning my maid attended me, and, with the natural hesitation of good nature in relating disagreeable tidings, she informed me, Mr. Montgomery was married to my mother. Sir, it is the fact. Last Saturday my mother became the bride of your son, and the parade I witnessed last night was to do honour to the first complimenters of this extraordinary hymeneal. The tidings stunned me, for I was no way prepared from the conduct of either to expect such an event. Uninvited and assuredly unwelcome, I visited their apartment the hour of breakfast, and my mother collected the utmost of her haughtiness, and Mr. Montgomery his gay indifference, to repel the reproaches they expected I should be prompted to bestow on them. But, sir, they mistook me. I went only to deliver to them a plain history of the mischiefs I have heaped on Mr. Murden and my Sibella, to remind them how early, and, alas, how severe, a punishment has followed my deviation from rectitude. I saw Montgomery's countenance become pale and ghastly. It was, sir, when I spoke of Miss Valmont's independent fortune. Then, I believe, all the force of his situation was present with him. May it often recur, and be the preservative against future follies. Allow me, sir, to say a word or two of him who most loved your niece and best deserved her. Mr. Murden intruded on your domain, and destroyed some of your unripe projects, yet I persuade myself you will feel a pity for his misfortunes. His life pays the forfeiture of his curiosity and secrecy. A romantic love of Miss Valmont sapped its foundation, and his nights of watching amidst the chilling damps of the ruin hastened the progress of its destruction. Sibella's unaccountable escape from him at a time when his high-toned feelings were wrought upon, in a way that I cannot express, by the alteration in her person, drove him to madness. Then it was that I saw him, who once possessed every advantage of manly grace and beauty, changed to a living skeleton, whose eyes, starting from their sockets, glanced around with wild horror and insanity. Oh, sir, it was indeed a scene that called forth all my fortitude. As his delirium had no mischievous tendencies, it was judged better to remove him to London, and whether change of air and place had the salutary effect, or the delirium had exhausted his force, I know not, but he became perfectly restored to reason before we reached London. The restoration was almost beyond my hopes, and there hope rests, it dares not presume further. The most certain indications of speedy dissolution now appear, and all my time must be given to the endeavour of tracing my beloved Sibella, and consoling the anxious Murden for her loss. On his own account consolation pains him. All his wishes centre in death, and the irrevocable union will soon take place. Will you be kind enough to inform me of the name of Sibella's other guardian? Adieu, sir. May that peace, which is only to be purchased by rectitude, become an inmate of your abode. Caroline Ashburn. End of section 76.